Welcome everybody to the Keys to Wisdom channel. As you can see here, we got the alphabet, Greek Hebrew, 1 and 2 and 3 to 26 script up there, right? The 26 ordered letters that we use in English and other languages. So what I want to do here is pass on a little tip or trick to everybody else out there who watches that was shown to me mostly by Dan. I've done a tiny bit of dabbling in the consecutive day order of the year as it applies to the word, but not a ton of it, right? And one of the things that Dan had told me when he was working on his stuff, he says, man, I keep running into the 208.89 and seeing it as the 208th day of the year of 1989, the day he was born, the 208th day of the year. He had told me something about it like a month ago when we're talking, and I said something like, nice, I don't even look that way at the information. Most of the time I've only dabbled around with it, but I didn't really take what he said and follow it up with anything, right? I told him good job on it, it's good thought and whatever, but I didn't go and try to look for and see if there was more to the stuff that he was talking about until a few days ago, right? About a month after the first deal, right? So here the entire alphabet, right, all together, the very first time Z ion exists, right, where Zion comes into play. The rest of the time it was either balanced at the beginning and or Scion the entire way, right? It finally becomes Zion, right? Scion is real, Zion is real. They're two different things, though there's a lot of similarities among them. So anyways, the entire alphabet, when it's put out there, right, and it's numeric order values through the crosses, what it produces is this 208.89, right? And from what Dan has been talking about, he's born on the 208th day of the year, July 27th, right? Day 208 in all non-leap years. 208.89, right? Now this here has an especially strong deal to it because it's showing 208th day of 89, which is a non-leap year, right? It's July 27th. But it's also showing us the previous year, which was a leap year, 1988, as the 209th day, right? This is the 209th day of 1988 is July 27th. And the 208th day of 1989 is July 27th, right? Day 208 in all non-leap years. In all the leap years, right? Day 209, right? So this here in terms of relating to the years and the calendar in the consecutive day order, it's got really strong stuff because it's showing both leap year and non-leap year, both 208 and 209 for a specific date. There's only one day this can be showing here in terms of looking at it in terms of the day of the year consecutive order, right? And that's July 27th. So it only took me 10 seconds of really considering what he said to me about the consecutive days to look into it, and in particular to the one that he was talking about, the 20889, which I've showed so many times over the years is the entire alphabet, right? 10 seconds after I seriously looked at it, it was right there. Then I looked at it more in terms of realizing what it's showing. Leap year and non-leap year, 208th day and 209th day. So these are some things for other people who are working with the word and looking for some of their own personal stuff in there to consider, right? So this script has a ton to do with timing, right? Let's see what the timing deal is, right? 1200 in terms of our C-lock work, clock work, right? A and B, again, there's a lots of clockwork involved in this, right? A, B, C, it's all clockwork, right? The two different options, right? You're either going this way, A, B to C, and then you would have had an A, B period before the C on the way to get there, where you're going right here, like, right? It's all a timing thing. Well, even before we put those timing things on, which is basically, it's the ending of the great year and the wrapping back around. It's the fish, the tail section of the fish, Jesus fish, right? So then now here when we're doing all this, and Dan's been around here for so long, working with the word, trying to push the word out to other people even more than I have, right? And it's not a coincidence that Dan's the one here that put out that graphic of Jesus fish finally resurrected back to what its secret meanings all actually mean, what that symbol, when you see the symbol there, right? Everything that's in your plain sight that's just not recognized when you see it, right? It's on that graphic that he put out, right? So it's no surprise in here within the word here. It shows a major connection to Dan, right? Through the entire alphabet, right? A lot of funny things on that is, right, the alphabet is the name, right, but we got to realize that not only is that Greek and Hebrew, both of those words are containing consonants, right, and it does like a same way as the setup of A to Z, right? It starts unblocked air, open in the front, closed in the back, right? Zzz, A, zzz, when we pronounce it, right? They actually teach us to say it's the ABCs, which is a contradiction, right? Now I know my ABCs is a contradiction to what you're reciting. It's called the alphabet, right? It doesn't have nothing to do with the C at that level, right? But now I know my ABCs, right? It's the alphabet. So alpha, open in the front, bet, it's a closed in the back thing as well, right? There's a lot of moral in terms of that. So I'm kind of losing my train of thought, but anyways, I'm talking about Dan and the fish and the reason he's around here and the reason he's taking the word so seriously. And actually, when I started looking at for more of his stuff within the word, it was fairly easy for me to find lots of different related stuff to him within the word, right? But now when I look at this, right, every time I do look at this, now I gotta think back to Dan, right? Let's see something. Never done this before, but let's see. See, Brad, how I do those IC Cecily deals, right? When I'm looking at the 6, 4, 7, 9s, different combinations of them. So now I was saying now, every time I show the complete alphabet and I see this 20889, so like I see Dan or I see Daniel, right? So I had never looked at it, but I'm like, let's see what it shows, right? But anyways, uh, it's it shows some kind of connection to him, right? And then especially too, where Dan was born in 1989, but he was created in 1988, right? Conception deal here. So let's say Dan was born November 27th of 1989. Well, then that wouldn't have he wouldn't have that application to being born one year, conceived in a different year within this, right? It wouldn't be as strong of a deal as him being exactly on the 208. Well, it wouldn't be any of a deal, right? Because it wouldn't be day 208, right? It takes somebody who is on day 208 to start looking for something like this, right? And then he had noticed that and said something to me, and there's huge amount of things to it, and it ties to him, right? So it's no coincidence that he's been so involved with the word, and also was so involved in putting the resurrected fish back out into the world. And this is one of the applications where I had used it before, right? The day I got the word trick or treat, right? And I've used this to talk a little bit about it over the years, right? The last 9+ years, of going on 10 years now, right? On day 304 of 2013. And of course, I've gone through the entire consecutive order, 1 to 366 days that there are every single year, right? And I've showed the 4 vowels, the 40 vowel days of the consecutive year order, right? There's 40 vowels, but there's only 39 periods because the A and the B are back-to-back vowels, even though everybody here has relatively no clue outside of those who watch on this channel that the A and the B, the first and the second positions, are both vowels, right? But day 304 is one of those days, right? We put it through the cross. So what do we got? 300, 600, 800, and 11, 822. 97 would be 919. That's the value of the 304th day of the year, right? It was another significant meaning to this day, and to, right, since it was 2013, it was a non-leap year, right? On a leap year, it would be day 305, because that February 29th comes in, right? So every year, Halloween is a vowel day except for leap years, right? The 304th day of the year, right? So this is some of my had previously minimal looking in terms of the days of the year, right? I haven't even looked into Cecily stuff about myself, and stuff about other people in terms of identifying what their days are in leap years and non-leap years, right? And of course, one all of June and all the way up to the leap day, right? If you're born from January 1st or your days are January 1st to February 28th, you're going to be the same day every single year, right? And then everybody else, you'll have some that you don't have a day except for every 4 years. How fucked up is that kind of system where somebody is born on the leap day, February 29th, and then they have no birthday in the calendar for periods of 3 and 7 years, right? It used to be every 3 until the Gregorian lock was put on the old Julian calendar, right? But how freaking goofy of a system is that, right? Born when were you born? On 2/29/88. How old are you? Well, I've only had so many birth dates, right? It could be 1/4 of your age at the minimum, right? Depending on, sometimes they do some extra skipping to keep it on track, right? So, but what a fucked up system. Just somebody looking at that to comprehend who would put out such a garbage system. But that's also, right, there's a lot of moral in terms of the use of 365 days versus 366 days, right? Pyramid in Chichen Itza, El Castillo in Chichen Itza, Mexico, right? Sitting right here in front of you. There's 4 different staircases up the pyramid for the 94 periods of 91 days that fit in between the 2 equinox days that are less than 1.25 days, right? 1.2422 days, I believe it is, right? So you got that, and the 4 sets of stairs, you got 364 days, and then any time that you're having only 365, right? Those are locked in, always the same length days, right? These 364, and then when you only have 365, well, then that means the ownership is of those 2 different 12/12 days is held only by one, right? And then every 4th year or whatever, on every leap year, then you got 366 days, which is showing 2 having ownership of those 2 different equinox days that occur every single year. Every single solar year is longer than 365 days. It's always 366 days with 1 day cut short. And it begins and ends always at an equinox, right? And the ball drops there twice a year, March and September equinox, right? Because there's a moral in showing that it could be beginning and ending at either one of them, right? But there's 364 steps for the 364 days that the ball doesn't drop there. And then the 2 other days, right, of the 366 every single year, the ball drops there, right? 91 days, 91 days, 91 days. So, right, there's a lot of moral into them using the 365-day system that produces such a garbage bullshit as Yeah, I'm born on February 29th, and oh, I only have a birthday every so often because my birthday or date, right, doesn't exist in the majority of, over 75% of all of our years, right? Just ridiculousness, right? But every solar year is the same amount of time, and it always begins and ends, right? And it's kept track of perfectly there at El Castillo in Chichen Itza, Mexico. So anyways, keep an eye out for that. If you're looking through the data for your stuff, familiarize yourself for what your days are, right? So that 208 and that 209 that's in there for the leap and non-leap, that's Dan's days of the year because he's born after the leap day, right? Anybody born March 1st on out, you're going to have 2 different days. Anybody born the beginning of the year up to February 28th, you're only going to have 1 day no matter the year, every single year, right? So familiarize yourself with those type of things if you're looking through the word, because they deliver, as you can see, right? It's delivered right here, right? Day 208 in all non-leap years, right? 208th day of 1989 non-leap year. And to clarify it, day 209 of 1988, a leap year, right? So there's some significant stuff to it, and I'm sure if I follow down the trails a little bit more onto the describing and the action and different things in this, that I could produce some backup evidence of it. But I know the deal because I know how I work with the word and how the response comes when it's the real deal stuff, right? It takes me no effort at all. It just, boom, it's just there, right? And that's here, as long as it took me to type it, right? Less than 10 seconds once I really considered what he had been talking to me about, right? Yes, for sure, 100%, right? That's definitely referenced to the date that he was born, July 27th, 1989, right? And that's the only date that this can play around with, the 208th day of 89, the 209th day of 88. Leap year and non-leap years can only be about one date. That's July 27th. So anyways, take this little tip or trick and put it in your pocket and see what you can do with it if you're out there exploring the word on a personal level. Anyways, with that said, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you think that's something you should do, and have a nice day.